Hey guys, King of Charmander here. Today I'll be your judge, your jury, and your analyst. And today I bring to you my top 5 teams for the Hisui Cup. This is literally the Sinnoh Cup with just Hisui Pokemon in it. If you do happen to see someone with a Sneasler, they are trying super hard for this cup. Because Sneasler, the only way you're going to get one is that if you hatch one and trade it to someone else. At least that's the legal way to do it. Other than that, those of y'all, you're probably going to have your alts, hatch them on your alts, and then you're going to trade it to your alts. So that's the try-hard way. But despite that, the Sinnoh Pokemon are still incredibly powerful. You're going to see a lot of Sinnoh Cup teams from the previous cycle still just be really dominant in this cup just because of it's a very rock, paper, scissors cup. The only real notable danger in here is probably Hisuian Electrode. Because of Energy Ball, you can cover Gastrodons, you can one-shot Gastrodons, and Wild Charge, of course, is the most powerful electric type move in the game. If you manage energy well and you're confident in your ability, it goes to town against a lot of things. So this is the Sinnoh Cup with Hisuian Pokemon in it. The new Hisuian Pokemon, like I mentioned, the only one that's probably going to have, 2 of them are going to have an effect. The one of them is really hard to get. So if you're trying that hard for a weekly cup, when it comes out in like Wild later, I hope you wasted your Stardust. But there are legal ways to get it. Like I mentioned, like me, I'm trying to find out some of my friends still play really hardcore. So if they hatch one, I'm going to be like, can I trade you or like reroll you please for like one? And that's how I'm going to do it. I just want to use it for content. Sneasler is incredibly glassy, so you're going to die. Before you get any moves off, it's going to die against a lot of things, if it's not the one shield. So, that's this cup. Again, it's just literally, they might as well just call this the Legends Arecus Cup. That's really what it is. But before we get started, this is my therapist mental health tip of the day. Again, you can skip this by just going straight to the chapters and going straight to the first team on the description. This one is about habit plans. So the healthy habits are important for life. Developing new healthy habits is an important part of working towards long-term goals. For example, the goal of proving one's health can't be achieved without habits such as eating well or exercising. I'm trying to cut weight right now because I want to compete in Muay Thai next year because I'm getting really angsty and I really want to punch someone in the face. But I'm going a little extreme because I'm actually cutting down way below than my average like natural weight class. Actually, my natural weight class is like 120, below like 120, but I'm trying to go to like 115. So in order to do that, I have to have healthy habits. I have to sleep well, I have to diet well. So that's part of achieving long-term goals, at least for that sense. But this is a great worksheet from Therapist Aid. Again, habits are very valuable. You probably have your healthy habits. You wake up, you work out, even getting up, toothbrushing, etc. Like that's a healthy habit. So it's to find your own personal formula. And another example is like sleep. For example, good sleep habits, good sleep hygiene is very valuable for your mental health as well as your physical health. If you don't have a good sleep cycle, getting one is very valuable because later on it helps you it does so much for you as far as like healthy sleep. Of course, there's still times where you're not going to get enough sleep, but that's perfectly fine. You could jack it up once or twice or even like a week, but getting your sleep cycle back is very important, and that's part of healthy habits. I'll put the description in the worksheet in the description as usual, and without further ado, these are my top 5 teams for the Hisui Cup. And without further ado, let's get started. Alright, for the first team we have Empoleon, Frostus, and Drifblim. Some of you might recognize this as literally the most common team in the Sinnoh Cup. So this team is very strong because Empoleon, Frostus, and Drifblim all complement each other really well just because of a lot of pressure and Empoleon's many resistances. It resists ice, you also resist poison, and Hydro Cannon and Drill Peck is a great combination. The only problem that it encounters from before, it's solid across the floor. The only problem is Hisuian Electrode. As you see here, Hisuian Electrode can give you somewhat of a problem. However, there is a way around it. So, Hisuian Electrode wasn't allowed in Sinnoh Cup compared to this one. You might as well call this the Legends Arecus. This is like the Legends Arecus Cup. So, when you're in the 2-shield against Hisuian Electrode, yeah, Hisuian Electrode wins, but you have no farm. So what you can essentially do here is that you can sack Empoleon in the lead, force your opponent to fire 3 wild charges, and then farm down your opponent's Hisuian Electrode. However, with that being said, they can also switch out and clear their debuffs. So depending on what they come in with, you may or may not lose. However, Frostless, for your back row, as a result of it, your back row is still pretty strong with Frostless and Drifblim. So Frostless and Drifblim can try to charge and close out, especially Frostless. Frostless is still an incredibly powerful closer, especially if you're able to take out Hisuian Electrode. The problem is Bastiodon and Gastrodon. So if you see a Bastion in the back, you die, because Drifblim and Frostless don't do very well against the giant mega tank that is Bastiodon. So, however, despite Bastion being in the back, this team was still the most common team before, and it was still very powerful. So this team will still see you a lot of success, because outside of you still have play outside of a Hisuian Electrode, but of course just beware of Bastiodon in the back. Really high threat score just because of a lot of things being able to break the Empoli, be able to essentially take out Frostless Drifblim in the back. And when you have double ghosts, normal typings, well, there's only one real normal type that kind of gives you an issue here, and that's Frostless. But other than that, it's still a very, very solid team. Drifblim against Munchlax isn't a bad matchup because you wall Munchlax and you can debuff it with Icy Wind. So there's still a very good matchup. But despite that, this team was very powerful. I believe I went 13-0 at one point with it, so it'll still serve you well here, especially if you're able to adapt the Hisuian Electrode. So for team number 2, we have Empoleon, Drifblim, and Gliscor Shadow. You could use a regular Gliscor. I think the Shadow one's better though, just because you do extra damage. But the reason why Gliscor is really good in the Hisuian Cup is because of the fact that Earthquake, you're able to nuke a lot of things. It also resists ground type attacks, like with Gastrodon. You also give other things. The ground resistance gives you a lot of play. You resist poison, you resist ground. You also double resist electric. So against Hisuian Electrode actually has a big problem against Gliscor, just because Gliscor does resist Spark as well as Wild Charge. Energy Belt takes a minute to get to, so unless Gliscor is already hurt or you have extra energy on Electrode, you're not going to get to do Energy Balls. And Night Slashes do end up stacking up, especially if you boost. So it seems really solid. Again, it was on the top performers list. You lose the lead with Empoleon, you Safe Switch into Drifblim, or you can sack Empoleon in the lead. Ideally, you kind of want Gliscor in the back, so you can do that strat I mentioned to you. If you see Hisuian Electrode in the lead, take it out in Empoleon, send in Gliscor to try to farm down, and outside of seeing a Frostless, Gliscor and Drifblim can take out most of everything in the back row. Really solid team. The only thing that's going to give you much of a problem is the electric types, as in Electivire, Rotom, Wash. Hisuian Electrode is also a problem for you. However, the sack the Empoleon against the giant wooden ball thingy is very powerful. You know, it's like the power of thunder. If you remember the Power Rangers season, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers season 1, they turned into the power of thunder, and then yeah, they zap everything to death, which is basically like what Hisuian Electrode does. But this team is still really solid, rates high for a reason, and outside, you still have those problems like Hisuian Electrode, you still have things like Electivire, you still had Rotom Wash. I would say Obamaso is also probably one of the bigger issues you had as well back in the day. The one thing you pretty much have to adapt to, and the thing you have to know, adapt to Hisuian Electrode, and you'll do well in this cup. Alright, and for the top team from the last time the Sinnoh Cup was out, and arguably, literally still probably, in my opinion, still the top team, is Frostless, Gastrodon, and Bastiodon. This team is incredibly dangerous, especially since Hisuian Electrode does lose against Frostless, just because Ice is super effective against Grass. So out of all the teams from that cup where things are kind of deleted, this team is arguably still just as strong and just as annoying, because it's literally tap tap blap blap, you die. It's that simple. Pretty much high grades across the board, not very safe. Your play here is to either your safe switch is going to be Gastrodon, or you're going to sack Bastion to the gods. So if you lose against Frostless, Frostless's losing lead would likely be Bastiodon. If you see Bastion, what you're going to do is, if you get the Bastion on a Frostless, you're going to throw your own Bastion onto them and hope that they stay in. Either they stay in, or you're able to win switch, and then Gastrodon and Frostless can close out. That's really the way to do it. However, just because Frostless is so powerful, and like I mentioned, Frostless does beat Hisuian Electrode, gives it a problem. This is probably the most solid direct team, I would say, that doesn't really need to change anything. The new Hisuians, like, Hisuian, the Quillfish and Overquill, the reason why they're not good against Frostless is because they don't resist Frostless's Avalanche. So the fact that they're a Dark type, it doesn't really matter. When it comes to Sneasler, yes, Sneasler has Shadow Claw and it can beat out Frostless. However, because of how you need to access Sneasler, you're probably not going to see a lot of them. It needs to be traded in order to be used in Great League. And even then, Sneasler dies super fast to Gastrodon. You sneeze Sneasler, you can have it go against the lead. You can just shove Frostless into it, and then Gastrodon will farm down Sneasler incredibly fast. Gastrodon is literally the one thing that makes all the other ones obsolete, because it could beat or it gives a problem against things like, well, all the poison types, and even Hisuian Electrode. If it has shields, Gastrodon can go ahead and try to body slam you to death or something of that sort. So that's why Gastrodon is still incredibly strong and incredibly dangerous for this cup. Doing well against most of the meta, and this tap team is very easy to run. You lose lead against Frostless, throw it in Bastion for the gods, and hope that whatever you have in the back, like Gastrodon or Frostless, or the other way around, is able to win. Or you just RPS the living crap out of your opponent. This team has the lowest threat score for a reason, and is the top ranked team, because it's still really freaking strong and will create a lot of problems for many combinations. Alright, next up we have Lucario, Cresselia, and Hisuian Electrode. Lucario and Cresselia was a top combination in the previous top teams. Lucario is really strong because with Shadow Ball, you can essentially end things like Frostless and Driplim in one shot, and Power Up Punch does rev up against Bastiodon. You're also able to beat the unholy crap out of poor Empoleon, and that's why Lucario overall is #1. It's really glassy, so you are going to die against Gastrodon. Mind you, if you get Lucario against Gastrodon and your Gastrodon does not shield Shadow Ball, you can farm them down. I've been in that matchup way too many times. So make sure y'all shield Lucario if you're the Gastrodon, because Shadow Ball will ball out. The Hadouken, the Kamehameha Wave, the Turtle Wave will freaking nearly nuke your poor Gastrodon. Shield your Gastrodons. Use your shields. But if you lose it against Lucario, Cresselia is a top save switch, because with Cresselia, you're able to either debuff with Moonblast, or Grassnot is able to one-shot Gastrodon. So Cresselia is still really good in this cup. Even if you see something like Drapion, etc., you could still do a bunch of chip damage, have Lucario come back in, and then hopefully Hisuian Electrode can close out the back row with 2 shields. Hisuian Electrode can function like Frostless 2-shield strat. You could use that with Electrode Hisuian, and Electrode Hisuian with Wild Charge Energy Ball has arguably the best coverage for the Hisuian Cup. Because of Wild Charge and Energy Ball, you're able to nuke Gastrodons. Wild Charge does big damage. That's all you need to know. Great coverage, not a lot of bulk. Lucario and Hisuian Electrode aren't super bulky, but Cresselia kind of makes up for that stat. But either way, the goal of this team is to just do big damage, or you're using Cresselia as kind of a tank or a sacrifice. Frostless does give you a little bit of a problem with this team, but however, you're literally just going... Frostless outpaces Lucario in the Shadow Ball scenario just because of Powder Snow having that buff. And Frostless does win the 2-shield, as you see here. However, Frostless doesn't have any energy left. So Frostless has to use all of its avalanches in order to beat you, and it's literally left with 7 HP. The problem with this, though, is that losing alignment really sucks in the Sinnoh Cup / Hisuian Cup, because you could probably have Bastiodon or Gastrodon. So you can sack your Lucario in the lead and hope that Hisuian Electrode and Cresselia can close out, but you don't have shields. That's the problem. So even though Lucario and Cresselia are a very powerful combination, just because of Gastrodon and Bastiodon being out there, it can be a big problem. But still a really solid team. Lucario, you've probably seen a bunch of Lucarios in the Sinnoh Cup. Expect them to return because it's just that good. And Cresselia with coverage along with Hisuian Electrode, this team can be really strong if you're able to keep alignment, or if you're able to rev up and just gain a bunch of energy, or you could close out with Hisuian Electrode 2-shield strat. Alright, last but not least, we have Electrode, Drapion, and Gastrodon. Just like with the Frostless 2-shield strat, you can do the same thing with Electrode with Wild Charge. So if you lose the lead with Electrode, what you can do is that you could break a shield. So you could fire one Wild Charge, break a shield, and then swap out in a Drapion. or you could just switch immediately and then save your shields for Electrode. So with Electrode, it is very powerful, except for one particular mon, or actually two. So overall, this team has great grades across the board, or like decent grades. You're not going to have a lot of bulk or safety in the Sinnoh Cup / the Hisui Cup. It doesn't happen that way. Either you have a lot of coverage and consistency. These two are still going to be generally low unless you have Bastiodon or Cresselia on your team. That's the rating. That's how the rating is going to go up. But your only problem is probably going to be Bombastone or Frostless in the lead. If you lose the lead with Hisuian Electrode or Frostless, you want to safe switch. So safe switch out in Drapion, and hopefully Drapion and Gastrodon can hopefully try to close out for you. Hisuian Electrode is still dangerous against Frostless though, just because of Wild Charge doing big damage, so Frostless does have to shield. So what you can do is that you could fire a Wild Charge, break a shield, and then swap out. And then you can come out with a dub. But the only issue is that it's really rough. As you see here, one Powder Snow is going to do 6 points of damage. So that can add up because Electrode isn't super bulky. It's glassy in the Hisui Cup. So just be careful of how you play Hisui Electrode. But it's really solid. But this team's really solid. I practiced with it a lot, and out of losing leads, you can come out with a lot of win conditions just because if you have good energy management, Electrode, Wild Charge is a beast move. So that's just basically the synopsis of Wild Charge just being one of the most powerful and high damaging moves overall in the game. So really solidly, if you want to use Electrode in the lead, this just uses Electrode, the most powerful safe switch, in Drapion, and Gastrodon's in the back just to cover Bastiodon and things like Steel Tip. Gastrodon's good. Gastrodon was one of the most annoying things probably for you in the last Sinnoh Cup. Its ability to take out Bastiodon. You can farm down Bastiodon. That's what I've done in practice, is farm down whole Bastiodons and then Water Pulse Frostless in the back for the W. So you can create a lot of win conditions with this high pressure team. Gastrodon's just there for those Bastiodons and those Empoleons and Lucarios. Again, if you do see a Lucario, make sure you shield Shadow Ball, because if you don't shield Shadow Ball, they could possibly take back Switch and then ruin your day. And that's game. You know, there really wasn't any point of hiding this cup from the beginning. You should have just said it was like a special cup or something like that with Sinnoh Pokemon. I get it because Legends Arecus was earlier, but it's Niantic. It's not like I expect them to actually work hard. I mean, obviously, with how broken Pokemon Go PvP is, they're working pretty dang hard, right? Hint, hint. But it's what it is. So I hope y'all enjoy this. If y'all enjoyed this Sinnoh Cup, it was kind of rock, paper, scissors-ish, kind of. There are ways you can come out of the rock, paper, scissors spectrum, but it was like your win conditions were insanely sweaty. Or like, it was really off the wall. But I hope y'all, like, for y'all that are still trying to go after a Legend, y'all have plenty of time. If you're an expert right now, or even if you just made Veteran, you got plenty of time to make Legend. You have 30 plus days. And that's why I don't try hard. Because I don't want to spend my life sitting in the queue for leaderboards. Because there's more to life than Pokemon Go PvP. No, seriously, there is. Everyone's like, oh my god, Pokemon Go PvP, Pokemon Go PvP. There are games out there like called Valorant and Apex that your friends probably know way more about Pokemon Go PvP. And those games actually get 1,000 times more exposure, and the biggest esports organizations are actually invested in those games, not Pokemon Go PvP. So, yes. So, for individuals that have a giant coconut or giant superiority complex with Pokemon PvP, congratulations. You are really good at a game where the outside average person just sees you tapping on your phone. Because that's what it is. And that's mostly Niantic's fault. So, yes, poor designs, a lot of work needs to be done, but I hope y'all had a wonderful Go Fest Seattle. For those that did win, the casual gameplay is the reason why so many people are held on to this game, and the reason why I still play, because you made a lot of friends, I made a lot of friends, and those friends are what keep me playing this game, and I'm still good at PvP, so why not? But I do appreciate y'all. Please do me a huge favor. Please like and subscribe. Look forward to that Go Fest Seattle content coming like next week. I'm going to do 2 videos, but I'm trying to like it's 7 hours of content is a lot to unpack. So I have a lot for my GoPro as well as my phone. So like I'm trying to put it all together so it's like a nice little package. But I do hope y'all enjoy that video and you're looking forward to it. I hope y'all had a wonderful Go Fest Seattle. Good luck on your Go Battle sets, and I will see y'all on the next video.
Chat things that I have created.